Good morning. Wake up with YPN. Welcome. My name is Jonathan Fell. As many of you know, I'm the vice chair of your Iowa City YPN. To continue the kickoff of Fair Housing Month, we have Scott Hawes is the executive director at Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity here today to talk to us about one of the coolest ways that affordable housing is available for members of our community. And so before we begin, as always, remember to ask questions. If we get a question that seems right for the middle of the conversation, we might interject it here and there, but otherwise we'll pull them all and lift them up at the end. And remember, if you ask while you watch, that's better than having questions come in later, because we're right here and we can hopefully answer them. So Scott, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your job history maybe, and how you landed with Iowa Valley Habitat.
Yeah, morning, Jonathan. Yeah, my work history is kind of interesting. I did not anticipate landing in Iowa City working for a nonprofit when I started my professional life, 20 years ago. But I started out as a teacher, went to school for education and worked in Greeley Public Schools for 2 years. And then I got itchy feet and joined the Peace Corps and taught in China for a couple of years, where I met my wife. She was also a Peace Corps volunteer. So we decided to come back to the States, spent a couple of years studying in South Carolina, and then got itchy feet again and moved to Cali, Colombia, and taught at an international school in Cali, Colombia for 5 years. And then decided we wanted to get out of education, came to Iowa City, crashed in my wife's parents' basement for what we thought would be about 6 weeks. That turned out to be a little bit longer than that. And got hooked up with Habitat for Humanity as a way to kind of learn a little bit about nonprofit work. I started as a AmeriCorps service member, and then just kept on annoying the executive director until he finally hired me. And then spent a little bit of time doing repairs, and then kind of just ended up in this role as executive director. So like I said, certainly not part of the plan, but fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're going to hear a lot about various things and that Habitat does, but maybe to start off, for anybody who may not know, can you kind of tell us the mission of Habitat, what Habitat centers around, what got it started back in the 90s, what problem was it setting up to solve, and how have communities here in Iowa and across the country kind of watched that evolution of Habitat and the role Habitat has in how those solutions are playing out?
Yeah, that's also it's a pretty loaded question. So sure. We've been at it. Our specific affiliate has been at it for more than 30 years, and the way the Habitat network works is we have, I guess, kind of it's pretty similar to a franchise model.
Okay.
And so we have an overarching organization called Habitat for Humanity International, and then around the country, actually around the world, I think the Habitat affiliates are in over 100 countries around the world. Each affiliate operates as an independent nonprofit, and so our the one that serves the Iowa City area has been around since 1992, and it got started just as a way to provide safe, decent shelter for folks who weren't able to afford it, and solve a lot of the same problems that we're working towards solving right now, right? It's just not, home ownership wasn't accessible to a lot of folks. And so that's how we got started. And at our core, we're an affordable housing organization that really focuses on home ownership. And to make it so that we can break down barriers for folks who can't just walk into a bank and get a loan. Right. We have a kind of a complex model, but basically we build and now we repair homes. And then we also help to secure affordable financing. So when we first got off, or when we first got off the ground, that meant providing 0% loans. And so we were not only the builder and doing the outreach to recruit the volunteers, but we were also the lender. And then just within the last 7 or 8 years or so, we've gotten away from that model. And now we offer part of our loan is market rate interest, and then part of it is down payment assistance, essentially down payment assistance provided by our affiliate. So like I said, it's complicated. We have a lot of different moving parts. We're part lender, we're part builder, all so that we can provide affordable home ownership opportunities for folks who have stable income, but can't just walk into a bank and kind of get home ownership through that traditional way.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into the next couple of questions I was hoping to ask. So what, from your perspective, from Habitat's perspective, what are some of those challenges, to affordable home ownership? You mentioned just not being able to walk into a bank. So maybe there's some poor credit or no credit or whatever the case may be. But what are the greatest difficulties for individuals looking for affordable housing or struggling to find that? And how is that? How does that looked over the course of the past several years?
That's also a loaded question. So, there's a lot of reasons why, or a lot of barriers that folks face to getting homeownership. A lot of what we see is just insufficient income, right? Their wages just aren't high enough. The cost of housing has increased at a much higher rate than wages have increased. And so that's left out a lot of folks. And so they just don't have enough income to make the payment. Part of it is credit history. And coming out of the pandemic, a lot of what we're seeing is it seems like a lot of folks have had to borrow a little bit more. And so we're seeing a little bit more debt with some of our applications. And that's also becoming a barrier. And then a lot of the families that we serve are just larger families, right? So if you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 people in your household, it's really difficult to find a home that, has 4 or 5 bedrooms, right, and also you can afford. And so a lot of the families that we serve are just larger and they don't have other options. And so what they do is they jam into a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, and then everybody's overcrowded and you have fights over the bathroom, and then all the kids are late for school, and right, there's frequent moving with that. And so, just something simple like providing a house that's large enough for everybody to live comfortably makes a pretty big difference in their lives.
Absolutely. And I think beyond the house then too, right, there is ultimately a more stabilizing effect that extends beyond that. Like you mentioned, kids being late for school, not just for the family themselves, but for the community as a whole. Could you give us a little bit more insight on how the availability of affordable housing has that stabilizing effect for a family, and then maybe how that might extend out into the broader community as well?
Yeah, no, this is also another really fascinating thing that I didn't really think about until I got involved with Habitat for Humanity. But students do a lot better in school when they live in the same home and they have the same teachers and they're in the same school district. And of course that is everybody, of course, that is not really earth-shattering thing, but when you actually sit down and think about owning your home, you're going to stay in that neighborhood for 5, 10, 15 years. And so your kids are going to go to the same school. And if they need a little extra support at that school, then they're more likely to get it and not slip through the cracks than if they're jumping around every year or two, meeting new friends, having gaps in their education because of just changes in curriculum. But so what we've seen in Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota did a survey on this a couple of years ago, is that students of Habitat homeowners actually perform quite a bit better in school and have better educational outcomes just by owning a house. And that's because of those reasons that I just talked about.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. It's great for the kids, but it's also great for the family because the family's building wealth, and they can then turn around and use that wealth to invest in their family. So we've worked with several families who use their equity to invest in their children's education, which is just fantastic.
Yeah.
And then that investment then turns around and helps the business community because they've got skilled workers. And it's really just a nice self-fulfilling cycle. A little bit of investment can go a long way.
Absolutely. So as a family, I mean, let's kind of, transition out of that maybe not out of that conversation, but to a different part of that conversation. As a family comes to you, what does that process look like for them? What's kind of the short version of A to Z, them coming to you and then to getting the keys to their house?
Yeah. So we've recently kind of opened up a second path. So we now have two paths to home ownership. Our traditional path is where folks enter our program. They complete the application, and the application process is quite long. So it's certainly not a quick turnaround, but
Right.
they complete the application. They begin working with us. They begin partnering with us almost immediately, putting in some sweat equity. Each family has to put in 250 hours of sweat equity. They then work right alongside our volunteers and our construction staff to build their home, and then we turn over the keys. In that process, there's also pretty robust homeownership education program too. So that's our traditional route. As I mentioned, since the pandemic, we've had troubles finding qualified families because there is more debt, more job loss, a lot less stable income. And so we've kind of had to open up the second route, which is through the open market. And so I'm guessing that some of the viewers have maybe seen some of our homes that we've listed, but that's essentially they go to a third-party lender, and they get financing through a third-party lender, and then we subsidize that with some of our own financing. There's still a homeowner education component to it, but it's just a little bit quicker process so that we can get people in our homes. And also it allows us to make sure that folks are in a stable enough financial position to afford the home.
Yeah. Actually, I've shown a couple of those houses, and I can only say that they're lovely. And the folks that I was working with were just not quite able to get that point, but they were excited to be able to even see what you all were doing. And so I thought they were a great opportunity, and I'm excited to see those continue as another option as well for folks. If we do have some of our viewers or some members that are interested in getting involved, I know that we have a lot of folks who already are involved with Habitat. But how might that process look for them to become a volunteer? Can you give us any insight on that?
Yeah. So before I get too far, a big shout out to Taisha and Ben Russell, who are currently on our board and have been around Habitat for a while. Also Nancy Stiers. I don't know if she's on something like this, but she's actually served 2 different terms on our board, so she's been great. But there's a lot of different ways. The first one and the most simple one is come out and swing a hammer with us, which is always fun. It's spring, like there's nothing better than swinging a hammer on a Friday afternoon and then like getting lost on your way home at Big Grove. It's really nice. Like it's 75 degrees out, and come and build a wall and then have a cold one. So that's the first way. The second way is to serve on one of our committees. Our Women Build committee, it just does a fantastic job. And it's kind of our big community engagement effort each year. And there's just a lot of different things that we need to make that project successful. So from getting things for our auction or helping to set up the event, we always need hands with that. Another way to help us out is to support our Restore. So I'm guessing that a lot of people who are watching know what Restore is, but don't forget Restore. Restore is awesome because we have things like some of your viewers probably have properties, and so if you've got a property and somebody leaves behind like a couch or something like that, and it looks like it's in good shape, let us come and pick it up or donate it to us. And you're always dealing with people who are moving in and out and need new things and leaving things behind. So think about us for those donations, and then we turn that income that we generate from Restore, we turn that back into affordable housing. So those folks that we were talking about earlier, children doing better in school, all of that is tied back to our Restore. So those are the three main ways. And of course, there's always donations, just cash or monetary donation is also really, really helpful.
Absolutely. That's great. And yeah, I'm going to look into swinging a hammer and having a cold one with you here. I think that sounds like a great place to start, for sure. For sure. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, can you kind of tell us where folks can go to get a little bit more information about y'all and what you all are doing, and maybe how they can get involved?
Absolutely. So the easiest place and the most direct place is build.iowavalleyhabitat.org. That's our I guess our public facing interface, where you can make your donation. You can sign up for a volunteer shift. If you have information or want information, let's say there's somebody in your life that maybe needs an affordable repair or is interested in Habitat House, then you can go to our website, which is iowavalleyhabitat.org. Or you can just send me an email, scott@iowavalleyhabitat.org. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Awesome. And we'll put all that in the links in the comments after the live stream. So again, want to thank you, Scott, for your time this morning. I also wanted to remind everybody that we do have the Fairhaven Challenge for Fair Housing Month. So if you go and complete your Fairhaven course realtors at fairhaven.realtor and complete the challenge, you'll be entered to win free third quarter iCar dues. And so I just did mine last night. It is a very important, and I think a constant reminder and refresher for everybody, just to make sure we're keeping up on our fair housing knowledge and know-how, and making sure that we're bringing that to the people we serve. So again, Scott, thank you so much for your time this morning, and hopefully we'll see you out at a build sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.